People who forgave their cheating partner, what was the reason you let it go? Time. And karma. She left me for another guy because they were soulmates and were meant to be together, and a bunch of other excuses she gave me. We got divorced so that she could be with him, and then, shocker, the romance of the century didn't work out. She moved on to another guy. We'll call him Dave because his name was Dave, and he seemed decent enough. His parents were very good to our daughter, and my ex and him got engaged. Then one night, I got a call. On the other end of the phone was my ex, crying so hard she was barely able to form words, but eventually she said something like, "I'm so sorry, because I finally know what I put you through." Turns out Dave had met his soulmate, and had been carrying on an affair. They were meant to be together, and my ex heard all the excuses she gave to me repeated back to her, in some cases word for word. Through her tears, she apologized profusely, and it would have been so easy for me to say "serves you right" and hang up the phone. I didn't do that. It had been about 7 years since we split up. I'd moved on, water under the bridge and all that shit, plus we still had the kid together. So I talked her down off the ledge, told her that she was strong enough to get through this, true, and accepted her apology. Years later we reconnected for our daughter's wedding. All is forgiven, and we're okay now. A bit beside the question, but I wanted to tell a happier story. My mom cheated on her partner at the time D and became pregnant. D knew she cheated instantly because he couldn't physically have kids. He left her, but Mom didn't want grandparents to know I was a cheater baby, so D agreed to be put on the birth certificate. He came to pick me up and spend time with me every Sunday. He took up the role of dad even though I wasn't his. I found out a lot later all this and am still so thankful he stayed in my life. D didn't forgive my mom for cheating, but held no grudge or hostility towards the product of the cheating. Love you, Dad. Because I couldn't do math. We were dating for 2 months, but things got serious pretty fast. Met each other's families, this was around the holidays, and were having the talks about where we saw things going. One weekend, I come down with a really bad flu. Couldn't move out of bed, and told her I could not see her, but would be happy to talk on the phone. She tells me, "Hey, if it's all the same, do you mind if I pick up another shift at the piano bar waitressing and make some money for the night?" I tell her, "Sure, I'd rather rest and try to kick this bug, go for it." 3 months later, we're sitting on my couch and she seems distant. She tells me we need to talk, starts crying and tells me she thinks she has an STD. She tells me the night she picked up that extra shift at the bar, she stayed until closing and fricked her married boss in his car. But, and here's the kicker, she tells me, "You and I had only been on a couple of dates up to that point and weren't exclusive, so it wasn't like she was cheating on me," in her mind. For some reason, I couldn't put the math together to figure out which weekend it was that she took that extra shift, so I dismissed it. It wasn't until months later that the math hit me like an epiphany, and, by that time, we had developed so much more as a couple that I figured it was a one-off indiscretion. P.S. She didn't have an STD, she had a yeast infection. In the end, I called things off. She was a pretty terrible person in the end, and may have cheated on me at least 2 more times by the time things were over. I wasted 3.5 years of my life with her, but I never married her or had kids with her, which would have been way worse. Not me but a friend. He didn't want to be single again and go through the dating process, so he forgave. She cheated couple of times more and he still forgave. Ended up married. I stopped keeping up with the story because it's always the same cheating shit again. Not me, but my mother's boyfriend, not my dad, cheated on her when she was pregnant with his child. I hated his guts, she still took him back. He was an alcoholic and I always thought he was a weak, pathetic man. I couldn't believe why she wanted him ever back, so I asked her. The explanation she gave was that although he cheated on her, she wasn't a great partner to him either. She told me she would always belittle him and be emotionally abusive to him. They somehow reconciled and stayed together for another 14 years, till he suddenly died of a heart attack at 45. That was 15 years ago. My mother never dated someone again. I was pregnant with my second child and terrified of doing it alone. I didn't think I was capable. I was also beaten down enough to feel like I'd never have anything better. Thankfully I wised up. It's been years now and I'm still single and may be that way for the rest of my days, but it doesn't scare me like it did. I'm happy and that's all that really matters. Because I was trying to understand why it is she made that decision, and I wanted to try and make the marriage work. My mistake. Because life with her was better than life without her. And because our marriage counselor recognized that we still loved each other. That was 36 years ago. We're still married. And still love each other. I slept with an ex-frick buddy the night before they did. My girl calls me just bawling. She confessed immediately after it happened. We were long distance so it was hard for both of us in the ways of intimacy. Guess we are more alike than we ever imagined. She was like, "I made a mistake." I was like, well, funny thing. Yeah, that conversation didn't go well. I'm a sucker for crying. 1 year into our relationship, she confessed in tears that she cheated on me 2 weeks into our relationship by having sex with her ex. I forgave her and was proud of her for being honest. 2 months prior to our wedding and I find out she's been screwing her boss. I traveled all the time. She got uncharacteristically drunk and caught up in a moment with a stranger. It wasn't great, but it wasn't the end of the world and we talked through it like adults. Happened once in 5 years. Forgiveness isn't the same as letting something go, especially when it comes to cheating. Forgiveness for infidelity requires accountability, maturity, and sincerity. He came to me and he was honest and upfront about what he did. He answered all of my questions, even the hard ones. The bar is in hell, but he at least used protection. He accepted responsibility for his actions and knew it was his own weaknesses, insecurities, and misplaced arrogance that influenced his choices. He admitted that he did not enjoy it the way he thought he would, and had no interest in doing it again. He apologized sincerely to me, but understood that if this led to a divorce then he would accept it. It was painful. It took me some time to figure out what I wanted to do. In the past I made a mistake before we were together, and he chose to forgive me because it was a part of his faith. Show mercy towards others so that you can experience mercy from God. This principle is what influenced me to forgive him and us to continue to work on our relationship. Is everything fixed? No, but we're working on it and slowly building the trust back. He's acquiesced to nearly all the requests I've made, a few are in progress and will take time, and has been making efforts to read some books I've given him to help us strengthen our relationship. I believe good people can make huge mistakes, but I cannot personally hold singular lapses in judgment against a person forever, especially when they've shown genuine remorse. Call me blue-eyed, but I could feel her love for me was still there and I am so happy I did forgive her because the years after were so much better. He was in a bad place mentally. It's not a good excuse but one I sort of understood. We got him some professional help and we're closer and stronger. Our communication skills are better. He just needed someone to believe in him and help. I was so broken. I didn't think I deserved better or would ever find better. I thought if I loved him enough, I could heal it all. 10 years later. I am not longer that woman and I wish I could go back and hug that poor soul and let her know she's worth more and deserves so much better. Not cheated on myself but I'm a divorce lawyer and I've seen this plenty of times. The cheater usually does it again, hence the need to hire me lol, but they usually get better at covering their tracks so they don't get caught. If someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. Kind of unique situation. My wife last year went through an incredibly terrifying ordeal involving psychosis. She thought the FBI was spying on her and coming to arrest her every day. We agreed that she would take some time to go get some help while heading to her parents' home in Chicago, which was in hindsight a terrible idea. Her parents always dabbled a bit in conspiracy theories and let her go down the hole even further. Fast forward to her calling me up in the middle of the night screaming at me saying I was cheating on her and that she wanted a divorce. This would go on for about a month and a half until her sister and I convinced her parents to get her into a hospital. Now that she has the correct meds and me traveling across country multiple times to visit her and show her that I do love/never cheated on her, we are in a better place and she is back home now. Long story short, please don't be too proud to get your head checked. First wife cheated at work, I let it go because I was in love, then she did it again. Second wife cheated when I was at work. I let it go because we had children together. She did it again. I forgive her again because I'm an idiot. Then she started an affair online all the time thinking correctly that I was an idiot. Eventually we agreed it could not continue as it was. I then fell for and married our babysitter who was introduced to me by wife no 2. Now married and have been for 16 years, no affairs, no dramas, just happiness. Third time's a charm. My high school sweetheart cheated on me after 4 years of dating. She was my best friend before dating. It actually ended up being a huge wake-up call for me. I was a narcissistic leech with no direction in life, no money, no ambition. I manipulated situations to have her move in with me, support me while simultaneously relying on me for a place to live and transportation to work. I was unmedicated for my bipolar and would have manic episodes that left her feeling worried what I would do if she ever left me. During all this she found a guy who she thought genuinely cared about her and that she was really into. Yeah, it felt like a knife went into my chest when I found out, and the fallout between us was not pretty. It ended up ruining our whole friend group as I just played the victim saying how much of a piece of shit she was for doing what she did. It took a good couple years, a lot of self-reflection, a lot of therapy and some new medications that helped me to pull myself out of where I was, and we ended up connecting again. I feel like this post is geared more towards those who stayed in the relationship, but I'm thankful to be able to have been forgiven and have my best friend back in my life. Friend of mine at the time sent me nudes and pictures of her fricking him while I was out of town for work for 2 months. Got on a plane that night and quit my $12K a month job to go home and break up with her. She threatened to kill herself, so her friend called the police and she had to stay the night in the hospital to be watched. I stayed with her that night and ended up not breaking up with her until the next week when he sent me new nudes of her. My ex-fiancé lied to me about this emotional affair he was having behind my back for 5 to 6 years. Some girl he met online gaming. Always wondered why he didn't want me to play that particular game with him. I wasn't controlling and he's allowed to have friends, and play video games at night etc. I trusted him, but I shouldn't have. He wanted us to move to California suddenly, but my mom was diagnosed with cancer so I stayed back home. She only had a few months. He moved there without me, planning on setting up and me moving there in the future. The day my mom died he told me about the affair and all that went on for years. The emotional affair became physical and he was sorry he couldn't be there for me when my mom passed. It was unbearable pain. My mom treated him like her future son-in-law and died thinking we were going to get married. Last words she said to him, she loved him like a son and she was happy for us etc. Months later he comes back and is sorry for what he did etc. Turns out this woman had been ironically lying to him for years about who she is, what she looked like, her age, her financial situation, and that she is married and has 4 kids. Idiot. This is going to get me a lot of hate, but I will be honest with everyone since whatever, who cares. I cheated on my wife, before we were married, when I was around 17 or 18 years old. I was a horny child. I definitely hurt her and it sucked when I honestly understood what it meant and how it made her feel. She forgave me and it's hard to know why. We have been married for 8 years, together for 15 total, and we have a 4-year-old daughter. I love this woman, but I made some mistakes when I was younger that I won't be able to make amends for. They will always be there. If she hadn't forgiven me, my life would be completely different. There's a term for when a person enters a relationship and soon starts looking for the next one, swinging from one to the other like a monkey through the trees, but I don't remember it right now. Edit, I remember the term, monkey branching. I discovered that she was like that. I forgave her because I could see she was on a self-destructive path and felt sorry for her more than anything else. She died in a car crash 3 years ago, and the rumor is that one of her jealous exes did it, although there's no proof.